Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. He laughed like he owned the damn room. Loud, smug, careless. That's my sister, just a caterer. Nothing to worry about. I was halfway across the ballroom when Paul said it. A small crowd of executives turned to look. I didn't flinch, just adjusted the tray in my hands and kept moving. Let them stare. Let Paul enjoy his moment. My name is Lena Kessler. I'm 37 years old. I live out of a duffel bag these days, no fixed address. But 3 years ago, I was Apex Core, deep code specialist, clearance level Black Echo. Then I vanished, quietly, officially, permanently. Now I was back, not for Paul, not for revenge. This was about something bigger. The GALA was exactly what you'd expect from Aurotech Systems. All gloss, zero soul. Velvet table runners, backlit ice sculptures, servers in crisp white uniforms blending into the marble like ghosts. I wore the same uniform. Mine just had a few extra pockets. Quick note, before we go any further, where are you watching from? Edward Lorne, the CEO, stood near the center of the room. He had that polished look you only get after 3 media training seminars and a 5-figure skincare regimen. Champagne in one hand, toasting with the other. He never touched the drinks himself, always waited for someone else to pass it to him. Which is why I noticed when a man handed him a glass of red and his pinky flicked upward. Subtle. Too subtle for most. Not for me. I moved fast, stepping between Lorne and the crowd as he raised the glass to his lips. No beba isso, I said, low enough for only him to hear. He blinked, didn't drink. His eyes flicked to mine, calculating but not panicked. Clearance code. Sentinel, he paused, fingers tightening around the stem. Then, slowly, he set the glass down on the table beside him. No nod, no thanks. Just a silent confirmation that the message had been received. I turned and disappeared back into the crowd. Paul was still laughing at his own joke. Somewhere behind me, I heard the word toast echo again, but Lorne never raised another glass. Something was about to snap. People don't notice silence until it shifts. It's never the noise that warns you. It's when the wrong sound disappears. I was placing a half-empty tray on the buffet table when it happened. The music stopped, mid-track, like someone yanked the cord. Then came the ripple, a pause. That half-second of uncertainty, when you feel something heavy pulling the air down. 6 men in dark suits walked in, black comms, no name tags, no smiles. Security, but not Aurotechs. Government grade. They didn't yell, didn't pull weapons, just moved fast like they already knew who they were taking. I kept my hands low, unclipped the tiny comms piece in my left ear, and set it gently beside a silver napkin caddy. My signal was done. Guests started whispering, turning toward the commotion by the East Bar. Vance stood there, one hand still on a whiskey glass, like it could save him. Richard Vance, the lead officer said, flipping open a badge that nobody had time to read. You're under arrest for the unlawful transfer of protected intellectual property and breach of federal trade statutes. Vance laughed at first. Excuse me? This is a private event. You've been observed coordinating unauthorized access to classified systems under Aurotech's digital governance structure. We have warrants. Don't make this harder. I want to see legal. Vance turned like someone was going to back him, but nobody moved, not even Paul. I watched from the edge of the ballroom as Vance's face turned from red to white in 5 seconds flat. His fingers twitched like he wanted to run, but his body knew better. Don't resist, one agent said, stepping behind him. They locked his wrists before he finished stammering. Around them, the crowd erupted. Gasps, phones pulled out. Some guy in a tux backed straight into a chocolate fountain. Women clutched handbags like it was a heist, not a takedown. Still, no one looked at me. They didn't see the caterer as the trigger, but Paul did. He stood 10 feet away from the arrest, frozen. His mouth slightly open, one hand mid-gesture like he'd been about to say something when the rug got yanked. His eyes locked on me. I didn't blink, didn't smile, just turned my back and walked away. Down the hallway, past the coat check, past the bored teenage attendant flipping through her phone like the world wasn't imploding 20 feet behind her. I pushed the service door open with my shoulder and stepped into the alley. Cold air hit my skin, sharp, clean, honest. No one followed. I pulled off the jacket, stuffed it into a black duffel I'd hidden behind a dumpster earlier, and slid into my jeans and hoodie. The switch took seconds. I didn't linger. Inside, Vance was probably being dragged out in cuffs by now. Executives would be spiraling. Lorne would say nothing. He'd been trained for that. But Paul? he'd be choking on his own importance, trying to figure out how his sister, the one he'd mocked 15 minutes ago, had just cracked open the company from the inside. The click of my boots on wet pavement was the only sound. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I'd done what I came to do. The rest? Already in motion. I drove east through the night, no music, no lights on the dash, but fuel and temp. My hands shook a little. Cold or adrenaline, hard to tell. I pulled off Interstate 84 when the sky started turning silver and rolled into Echo Falls just as the first gas station opened. It was the only place that hadn't changed. I knew where I was going before the engine cooled. The house on Green Hollow Road had been empty since Dad passed. No one dared sell it. Too many bad memories in the walls. But I remembered what he always said. Houses keep secrets better than people. 3 years ago, I hadn't believed him. Back then, I was still Apex Core, quiet unit buried deep under Auratech's cybersecurity division, unlisted, untraceable. We lived inside packet traffic, deep scan, layer 9 work, GhostNet stuff. We were good. I was better. I flagged a breach on a Tuesday. Just a small signature, malformed headers jumping IP zones like they owned the place. It wasn't obvious unless you knew how to read jitter. I did. So I flagged it, tagged the behavior, built a model, and walked it down the line to Dean. Dean was my ally, or so I thought. He and I had worked through 3 scrubs together, shared Thai takeout during 20-hour patch shifts, laughed at the same boardroom jokes. I handed him the report, said, "This one's not noise. Someone's tunneling live." He nodded, promised to review. "Give me a day." 3 days later, my access was gone. I couldn't even get into the parking garage. Security walked me out like I was a temp who stole toner. The official write-up? Improper protocol handling? No hearing, no questions. Just a dead badge and a stack of NDAS. Dean didn't say a damn word. Didn't even make eye contact when I passed him on the way out. Just stared at his tablet like I was background static. And that would have been the end of it, until I saw it. A brass key taped to my windshield. No envelope. Just a single line scratched into a torn piece of receipt paper. "You'll need this when they make you forget." His handwriting? I'd know it anywhere. I left that same night. Didn't pack much, just what I could carry. By dawn, I was standing outside Dad's old porch, staring at the rusted lock with that brass key in hand. The front door groaned open like it hadn't been touched in years. Dust choked every surface. Furniture covered in yellowed sheets. A clock still blinking noon from the last time power ran through the place. I didn't stop to clean. Just went straight to the living room. The old floorboard near the window, where I used to hide candy wrappers as a kid, pried it up with a screwdriver from the kitchen drawer. The gap underneath was deeper than I remembered. Wrapped in canvas and duct tape, I pulled out a box the size of a shoebox. Heavy, no label, no lock. I sat on the floor, heart beating out of rhythm, and peeled it open. What was inside changed everything. Inside the box, on top, was a cassette tape, not digital, not even mini DV. An honest-to-God plastic cassette, label faded, corners chipped. Underneath it, a photo. My dad, younger, wearing a suit I'd never seen before, standing next to a man I didn't recognize. Same clean-cut look, same corporate shine. Their smiles didn't match their eyes. I flipped the picture over. One line in Dad's handwriting. "Trust fades before memory does." I stared at that tape like it might bite. Then I reached deeper. There was a false bottom. I peeled back the canvas lining and found a slot barely wide enough for a thumbnail. Jammed in it, snug and wrapped in black tape, was a micro SD card. The label on it said one word, "Charred." That's when I knew this wasn't just about me. I didn't stay in the house. Too many ghosts. I drove west until I hit a motel that took cash and didn't ask for names. Cracked the cassette into a cheap player from a pawn shop across the street and hit play. The second I heard his voice, my whole chest locked up. "If you're listening, kiddo, I'm probably gone." And not by accident, his tone wasn't scared, just tired. I thought I could bury it deep enough, far enough. I was wrong. Apex's legacy network. It's rotten. Someone's been siphoning through back channels that were supposed to be decommissioned. At first, I thought it was just old code bleeding out, but then I found the patterns. The tape clicked softly as it turned, a hum in the background. When I tried to escalate it, doors closed fast. Colleagues stopped returning my calls. I was blacklisted before I even knew it started. They didn't erase the data, Lena. They erased me. I stopped breathing. You inherited my eyes. My instincts. Which means you've inherited my enemies. You're not crazy, you're not wrong. You were targeted because you were right silence. Then one last line. Don't destroy them. Reveal them, I hit stop, sat still, let the weight of that settle. Then I opened my laptop and slid the micro SD card into the reader. Most of the files were raw, scrambled file names, no folders, like someone ripped it from a system mid-transfer. I started sorting, logs mostly, access records to server shells that hadn't existed on any of my clearance trees. Dozens of them. Then came the fragments, emails from Apex execs talking in vague terms. Control flow risk, containment through policy review, use existing optics. The language was corporate camouflage, but I'd been behind that curtain. I knew what they meant. One audio file stood out, larger than the rest. I loaded it. 3 voices. One was Marlon. I was pretty sure. Paul's old college buddy, now high up in compliance. Another sounded like it might have been Director Shaw, though it was filtered through a noise gate. The conversation was short, but it was clear what they were doing. We tag it as protocol mishandling. Kessler won't go public. She'll fold. She's too proud to beg. Then, static. A hard cut, mid-sentence. Like someone took scissors to the file. No fade out. Just gone. They'd erased the part that mattered. The names, the trigger, the source. But they hadn't deleted enough. I didn't waste time scrubbing the file myself. I knew someone who could do it faster and dirtier. Vega. I hadn't spoken to him in 5 years, not since Bangkok. He owed me one. I saved his ass from a double cross in a rain-soaked alley while he clutched 2 SSDs and a knife wound. I found his encrypted drop address, sent a burner ping with the file. Subject line, Thailand. Your turn message. I need the part they cut out. He responded in under 10 minutes. Layer 3 audio masking, found it. Ugly edit. Give me a second, I stared at the screen, waiting. My palms itched. I wasn't scared, just wired. When Vega worked, he worked in silence, the kind you could feel. Then the file came back, unlocked. No password, just one line attached. Hope you're sitting down. I hit play. The audio kicked in like before. Same clipped voices, same stiff phrasing. But this time, the dead space had a pulse. A few seconds in, it clicked. A sharp pop, then static. Then Paul's voice. Clear. Calm, like it was just another Monday. She'll take the fall quietly. Lena's wired that way. Always took the hit to keep peace. He chuckled, that lazy, arrogant laugh I'd heard since we were kids. She's got pride, but no backup. Just push it through compliance. Frame it as her silence. My breath caught, but my hands stayed still. There it was. No second guessing. No theories, no ifs. Just facts. Paul knew. He agreed. Maybe even suggested it. And now I had it. I didn't rage. I didn't scream or punch walls or fall to pieces. I planned. I copied the file to 3 separate drives. Air-gapped 2. Hid one in the false panel of my trunk. I wasn't taking chances. Then I ran the timeline. The breach, the cover-up, the file edit, Paul's voice. It all tracked. He'd been close enough to the real leak to keep his hands clean, but not clean enough to avoid exposure. I knew how he operated. He didn't fight dirty. He let others swing while he stood behind glass. This time, the glass was breaking. Vega messaged again. You want me to bury this for you? No, I typed. I want you to keep a copy. Insurance. But it's going public? You sure? Dead sure. I closed the laptop and leaned back on the bed, the cheap motel AC rattling above me. My whole life had funneled into this one point, and I finally had something solid. Not just a breadcrumb, a damn blueprint. This wasn't revenge. I wasn't trying to burn Paul to the ground. That'd be too easy. I was going to do what Dad asked, reveal them. The motel phone rang just before sunrise. No one had the number. I hadn't even given it to Vega. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Yeah, a pause, then a low voice, smooth like cold steel. Is this Kessler? Depends who's asking. Code name Greyroot. I'm not with Auratech. I'm federal. Oversight Board, Tech Division. You reconstructed a suppressed file. We heard it, I didn't speak. Let him fill the silence. We've been monitoring Vance for over a year. What you sent confirms internal collusion and that you were deliberately framed. But you already knew that I sat up on the edge of the bed. You calling to congratulate me? I'm calling with an offer. Figures. 1 million. 2 million. 3 million. 4 million. 5 million. 6 million. 7 million. 8 million. 9 million. 10 million. 11 million. 12 million. 13 million. 14 million. 15 million. 16 million. 17 million. 18 million. 19 million. 20 million. 21 million. 22 million. 23 million. 24 million. 25 million. 26 million. 27 million. 28 million. 29 million. 30 million. 31 million. 32 million. 33 million. 34 million. 35 million. 36 million. 37 million. 38 million. 39 million. 40 million. 41 million. 42 million. 43 million. 44 million. 45 million. 46 million. 47 million. 48 million. 49 million. 50 million. 51 million. 52 million. 53 million. 54 million. 55 million. 56 million. 57 million. 58 million. 59 million. 60 Oratex GALA, 3 days from now. We have reason to believe Vance will attempt a final data pass. CEO Lorne will be the target. We need eyes inside. Someone who knows the terrain, and I'm supposed to do what? Spy while serving shrimp skewers? You'll go in as catering staff. Observe only. Do not engage unless Lorne receives a glass directly from Vance. If that happens, intercept, and if it doesn't, you walk. No trace, no contact. I stood and stretched, back cracking from a night on a lumpy mattress. Why me? Because you already broke their protocol once. And because your file says you don't rattle. Damn right I don't. Then it's yours. Details are in your inbox. Respond with the word Sentinel if you accept. Click. I didn't need time to think. I grabbed the burner, opened a new draft, and typed one word. Sentinel. I hit send and watched the cursor blink twice before the message vanished. The prep was simple. I kept a black kit bag under the floorboard of my car for jobs like this. Plain clothes, mirrored badge templates, adhesive gloves. I added a new blank name tag to the pile and sat at the tiny desk with a pocket knife and one steady hand. No flourishes, just 5 letters, carved shallow and deliberate. SENTINEL. That word wasn't just clearance anymore, it was purpose. By noon, I had the route mapped. No GPS. Paper only. I parked the car 2 towns over and bought a train ticket in cash. A few hours later, I boarded, sat by the window, and didn't look back. They thought they erased me. This time, I was walking in through the front door. I stepped off the staff elevator and straight into the belly of Oratex finest. Same ballroom. New sharks, uniform fit clean, hair tied up, face bare, posture practiced. I was just another set of hands to everyone who mattered, exactly how I wanted it. The first thing I saw was Paul. He stood dead center, holding court with that smug half smile that always made me want to throw a glass. Vance was beside him, nodding like a bobblehead, both of them chuckling at something I couldn't hear, but already knew the tone of. Fake, loud, important. I grabbed a tray of champagne from the side staging area and stepped out like nothing touched me. Paul caught me in less than 30 seconds. I didn't even have my first round passed before he raised his voice. Hey, everyone. Look who's back from her glamorous career in food service. A few heads turned, some polite chuckles. I kept my face still and eyes moving. My sister, Lena, he added just loud enough to sting. She used to work here. Now she serves here. Vance grinned. I didn't. I pivoted clean and kept walking, ignoring the heat crawling up my spine. That part of the job was expected. The rest, that's what I came for. At the bar, I spotted it. Tall guy in a slate gray suit, lingering near the end of the counter. Not drinking. Eyes too alert, jaw tight, shoes too new. He wasn't a guest. He was a runner. Across from him, a real bartender poured a drink without looking up and slid something underneath the napkin. The runner reached for the glass, but before he took it, Vance walked up from the other side and tapped the guy's shoulder. Cool as hell, like they were old friends. Vance pulled a black case from under his jacket, thin, matte, magnet-locked. No markings. He passed it, one hand to the other. Quick. I froze mid-step, keeping a tray balanced while watching the handoff. Then I saw the runner's face, Ryan Wallace. He'd been expelled from Apex Core after a system leak 5 years ago. No warning, just gone. Word was, he tried to ghost a development environment into a private shell and got caught. I hadn't seen him since. Now here he was, middle of a gala, pulling off a dead drop like we weren't surrounded by cameras. Except that's the thing. He knew where the cameras weren't, unless we turned them on. I slid toward the rear of the room. Lorne stood alone near the sculpture centerpiece, checking his watch like he had somewhere better to be. His glass was still full. Not touched. Perfect. I stopped just short of his left shoulder and murmured, low but sharp, Alpha Lens 6 is blind. Rotate now. He turned his head a quarter inch, didn't look at me, didn't blink. What's your signal? He asked, barely moving his mouth. Sentinel, that was it. He reached into his breast pocket and tapped twice. Within seconds, lights above the south arch blinked faintly, barely noticeable to anyone not looking. The surveillance system activated. All blind spots, gone. Lorne straightened his jacket and walked toward the east end of the ballroom. The signal was live. The operation had begun. I set my tray down on the nearest side table and took one final sweep of the room. Vance was back near Paul, laughing again, none the wiser. Ryan Wallace had vanished, but not before the cameras caught his hand, the case, the transfer. Everything was in motion. This time, I was the one watching them, and the trap had just slammed shut. The ballroom doors slammed open. Security swept in like a controlled fire. 3 teams, fast and synchronized. Earpieces, tactical jackets, zero hesitation. Guests gasped. A few dropped drinks. The string quartet stopped mid-note. I didn't move, just kept my eyes forward as the crowd began to scatter in slow-motion panic. And then I saw him, Dean, leading the response team, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit with an agency pin I didn't recognize but definitely respected. He hadn't aged much, just carried himself heavier, like he'd finally been promoted to the level of guilt he deserved. His eyes locked on mine. He didn't flinch, didn't smile, just reached up to his comm and spoke with a calm, precise tone. Sentinel confirmed. 2 agents split from formation and closed in on Vance, who was still laughing at something Paul had said. One grabbed his shoulder, the other took his arm and twisted it behind his back. "Richard Vance, you're under arrest for federal data violations, obstruction, and unauthorized transfer of classified systems intel." Vance choked out a confused laugh. "Wait, what? No, this is a mistake. I work here." Paul spun around, voice rising. "What the hell is going on? You can't just grab him like that. He's our CTO." Dean stepped between them. "You need to step aside, Mr. Kessler." Paul blinked, thrown. "Wait, Dean? What is this? That's my sister. She's a caterer." Dean didn't even turn his head. "She's the reason we're here." I walked forward. No rush, no drama. Just straight past Paul, who stood frozen, mouth half open like someone had hit mute on his ego. He didn't say another word. Couldn't. Not with all the blood draining from his face. I stopped only once, right beside him. Didn't speak, didn't pause long. I just looked at him. One clean, brutal second. Not anger, not pride, just the kind of disappointment that cuts deeper than yelling ever could. He dropped his eyes first. Dean was watching. I turned toward him, and for the first time in 3 years, he gave me something real. A nod, no apology, no speech. Just a clear acknowledgement, quiet and earned. Behind us, the agents tightened cuffs on Vance, guiding him toward the doors as the rest of the team spread through the room. Panic rippled out, executives scattering, PR handlers dialing damage control, servers ducking for cover. But me? I was done. I walked past the chaos, past the glittering chandelier that once made me feel small, past the banners, the name tags, the legacy. Paul didn't follow. The room smelled like metal and old carpet. No windows, 1 table, 2 chairs. No visible cameras, but we both knew there were at least 4. Dean walked in holding a sealed evidence folder thick enough to snap a rubber band. He slid it across the table without sitting down. "It's the full archive," he said. "Your father's original pull. Not the copy, not the redacted mess they fed internal review." I opened it. Inside were receipts, burner logs, encrypted memos, timeline maps, all time-stamped, all tied back to names I hadn't dared connect. And one of those names hit like a gut punch. Marlon Grant, Paul's college roommate, the guy who introduced him to Apex, the one who always lingered just close enough to boardrooms without ever getting his hands dirty. He was the original breach, the first point of entry into Apex legacy network. My father hadn't just found a leak, he found the spigot. Dean finally sat, elbows on the table. His face was steady, but I saw something else in his eyes. Fatigue, maybe, or guilt. "This didn't start with you, Lena, or your father." "No," I said, flipping through the files. But Paul walked right into it. Dean nodded once. More like was pulled in. Marlon built the whole ladder for him. Made sure he climbed it. I found a memo chain, Marlon and an unknown sender, talking about leveraging proximity. That was the phrase. Proximity to power. Paul wasn't just in the wrong place. He was groomed for it. Dean leaned back, crossed his arms. "You still have time to walk away." I looked him in the eye. "I won't." No hesitation, no pause. Dean reached across, took the folder, and slipped it into a fireproof case. "Then we send it up. Oversight board gets everything. Full exposure." He sealed the case with a snap and keyed in a code on a black pad embedded in the wall. The case slid into the slot, disappeared. Transmission started, no turning back. I stood ready to leave, but Dean spoke again. "Your father knew it wouldn't stop with 1 round. Neither will I." He gave me a small nod. Not approval, not pride, just respect. I left the room without another word. The war was never loud, but it wasn't over. I uploaded the file from a secure node buried in a dead Apex server cluster. No trace, no signature, just a quiet push through the internal ethics archive. Less than 4 hours later, it leaked. Headlines flared up faster than I expected. Whistleblower returns. Project Sentinel was real. Apex leak tied to internal frame job. Voice from the dead, Kessler Sr. Names. They aired the tape at a closed federal inquiry. His voice, my dad's, played through the chamber speakers like he never left. Calm, focused, every word deliberate. You will be told it's contained. That it's noise, it's not. If they bury this, they bury accountability. I refused to be silent, and so did my daughter. Names followed. Timestamps, dates, email chains, Marlon Vance. 2 board members, 1 mid-tier senator. Not everyone would go down, but none of them would walk away clean. Paul didn't get arrested, but 3 days later, he resigned. Quietly, without comment, not even a press release. On the 4th day, I got a package. Plain brown paper, no return address. Postmarked from Chicago. Inside was our grandmother's old French dictionary. Pages worn, spine cracked, corners bookmarked from the last time she used it to teach us verbs we never cared about. Folded between pages 70 and 71 was a note. Lined paper, torn at the edge, written in Paul's handwriting. 1 line in French. Je n'ai pas écouté, mais maintenant je comprends. I didn't listen, but now I understand. No signature. Just that. I didn't cry, I didn't smile, I didn't even pick up the phone. I walked to the table, placed the dictionary beside Dad's cassette, and whispered, I know. Then I stepped outside. It had started to snow. Quiet, steady flakes falling without rush or ceremony. The kind that reminded you winter wasn't cruel. It just was. No headlines, no cameras, no victory parade. Just the sound of wind through the trees and my boots crunching across the porch. Sentinel wasn't a badge anymore. It wasn't a job or a mission. It was done. It was closure.